So today I want to talk about how to get rich in 2026, following a playbook, a strategy that very few, if not anyone, is doing. And I think it's gonna be an awesome year. I know I'm really excited for this year of what we can do. And I thought about, like, if I had to start all over again. Today I run our company does $50 million in revenue in the automotive space. And I think through, like, if I had to start all over again, what would I do? And I put together this plan, and so maybe it can help you. So the first is that for people who are looking to build real wealth, there's this principle that I've seen everywhere, which is that it's not that they work harder, it's not that they're smarter, it's that they find a game that they have an unfair advantage at, and then they play it over and over again. So find something that you can succeed, that you have this unfair advantage, right? This asymmetrical bet that you then leverage to the max. And most people do the opposite, right? Most people are out here looking for what's popular. They want to see what everyone else is doing. They're chasing AI, right? They're chasing, years ago it was crypto. I think maybe a little bit less now. They're looking to build the next big thing. And if it was me starting all over again, like, that's not a game that I'm going to play, because I don't have an unfair advantage in that. I would be competing with the masses. I would compete with what everyone else is doing. And for me, that's not the way that I want to operate. What I would do instead is say, where can I win that others can't? Where do I have an unfair advantage given my skills, my abilities, my resources, my talents, my ability to, like, get shit done? And so there's this framework that I think through, and this is essentially what I've done, and what people are doing inside of 8-Figure Franchisee that we're helping, which is we want to find a niche that we can absolutely dominate. Okay, so find something where you can be really good. Then we want to implement systems to make it repeatable, because the trap that a lot of people fall into, and I'm going to get into this a little bit more detail later, is they become the hero. They're the ones that make the business successful. And the entire foundation is built upon that single individual. And that is not repeatable. And so whatever business that I would get into next, if I had to start all over again, I would be able to have the unfair advantage of seeing it, of assembling it, of putting the people in place. But it can't be the Brian show, right? Because if it's the Brian show and it only is successful because of me, then, like, that is not going to scale. That is not going to grow. That is not going to get to the levels in terms of income and ultimately freedom, which is, like, the whole point, right? Like, we're trying to make money to have freedom to then live the life that we want to live. And if we just buy ourselves a job, that kind of defeats the purpose. And so I would make sure it was a business that had systems that were repeatable. And for those who know my background, right, it's automotive repair shops. I have zero experience fixing cars. I have never fixed a car in my life. I've never done brakes. I've changed, like, a tire and a light bulb before. I don't know if we can even count that. But, like, talk about, like, I had no option to fix the cars. So I had to hire people who could do it, right? Versus, there's other people who, they're really good mechanics. They become owners, but then the problem is it's really hard for them to grow because they are the mechanic. Everything falls to them. They can't focus on, like, growing the business when they're fixing cars. But when you can put yourself in a situation where literally you have no other choice, then, like, creating systems is the only way. And so for me, it was, how do I create a system to hire mechanics? Because I sure as hell can't fix the cars, right? And so that pressure is what made it work. And so I, in fact, would much prefer that, is to find that business that has those systems that you can repeat over and over and over again. Then 3, it's to focus heavily on cash flow. Like, all these businesses are or should be cash flow machines in terms of, we have ways to generate leads by, right, investing into advertising. We have a very good system to convert those leads into dollars to execute and get paid. And we do it over and over and over again. Versus saying, well, I'm only going to focus on valuation, or I'm going to try and do this big raise, or, there's all these vanity metrics that people throw out, especially online. And At the end of the day, cash flow is the lifeblood of every single business. It is what we can take home every day. It is the number one focus, even in the size that I'm at today. It's cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. All right. So that needs to be forefront in terms of how do we get customers? How do we convert those customers into cash? How quickly can we collect it? All that. Then it's compound, right? So this is the fourth is the whole point of this is to compound your wealth. There's some crazy charts when you hear about Warren Buffett, right? Obviously everyone knows him, but when you look at this graph to see the amount of wealth that he has created over his lifetime, it's like 80% of his wealth has been created in the last like 10% of his life. It's like you go for this very long time, right? And that you don't see much progress. And then all of a sudden it goes really, really fast. And this is where a lot of people get hung up is, they're looking for quick fixes. They're looking for the dopamine hit. They're looking for that like instant gratification. And it's just like business and life doesn't reward that, right? It rewards the people who stick with it through the thick and thin and who build resiliency to whatever happens. And they bet on themselves. And when I look at my history and I think like, how would I do this all again? Or, what do I advise, anyone who's doing it? It is that you continue to reinvest and back in your business. And that compound wealth is so, so powerful that your brain doesn't even comprehend it. But you just keep doing it. You just keep doing it. And so anyway, that's the plan. And so this is how I've done it, right? I started in 2016. I bought my first two, into my business, first two businesses, auto repair shops. Today we do 50 million. Next year we're shooting for 60 million. We're shooting for a 20% growth this year. Like once you build the machine, it gets so much easier. And the secret is all about finding a game that I could win at and then just continuing to play it over and over and over again. And so the game, what it is, most of you here, probably know what I'm up to, but like it's rolling up franchises, right? It's this idea that once we can get into a franchise, that we can go and we can buy one and another and another and another and another, and we consolidate them, right? We're not inventing anything new. We're not creating the next Facebook. We're not getting into AI or trying to really do anything special. While everyone else is trying to do that, I'm trying to buy Midas shops, because that's my business, from 75-year-old ladies like this one. I bought this one 2.5 years ago. She wanted out, right? She's 75. She should be retired. She should have retired a long time ago, but whatever. I was the only person that she even talked to for selling it, because we knew each other and she liked me and she knew I'd be good for it. And we negotiated a deal. I put $25,000 down to buy this location, the business, not the real estate, but the business. And I'm making $2,000 a month payments to her. So it's a retirement, right, for her. This store has made $200,000 over the last 2 years. Now, it is not my most profitable store. It's not my best store. We should be doing better there. But like, that's an unfair advantage, right? That I am able to buy a business for $25K, like the price of a used car, and I can turn it into this machine that prints money. And that deal, I actually got two. It was actually a 2-pack. I bought 2 stores from her. It was $50,000 down, but they were split evenly. The other store is doing just as good, by the way. And so that's the advantage, right? And so it's like, well, Brian, how do you get these deals, right? How can you get these things that other people don't, right? And that's really what I want to get into, because there's a reason why once you break into a franchise system that you can have this unfair advantage. And there's a couple of things why. First is a lot of people don't even want to get into franchises. They hear franchise and they think a number of things. One, it's not a real business, that, you just buy yourself a job. There's no creativity. There's no ownership. You're a cog in the machine. So I've heard it all. And the reality is, there's a spectrum, right? There's 100% a spectrum of control in franchising, because it's a vast industry. It's like saying like, I'm going to get into real estate. Well, there's like, house flipping, and there's wholesaling, and there's multifamily and industrial. And there's there's hundreds of different ways you can make money in real estate, right? And there's this like problem in franchising where people say the word franchising and they have this like, they put it all in the same box, right? But they don't really do that in real estate, right? With real estate, there's like different strategies, different ways, there's different approaches. There's clearly, opportunities to make money. But in franchising, and a lot of it's because like, whatever, salespeople and stories and whatever, all these different things, there's reasons behind it. But it's not the same. Because when you own a franchise, I mean, what it truly is that you are an entrepreneur. You are a business owner that just happens to play by some rules. So like I am, a franchisee with Midas, which is a nationally known brand. It's one of the most recognizable brands. It's been around forever, right? So at the end of the day, I'm an entrepreneur who operates auto repair shops that happen to be in the Midas brand. But I am who I am if I happened to be in Meineke or Christian Brothers, or even Brian's Tire and Auto, or Beer's Tire and Auto, that'd be a better name, I would be still the same person. I would still operate my business the way I operate it today. I just wouldn't have the brand name. I wouldn't have some of the systems and the support and the national buying power and the real estate team that brings me opportunities and the network of franchisees who all work together and the national conventions and right. But I am still the same entrepreneur who has to hire people. I have to put deals together. I have to finance. I have to manage my own cash flow. I have to manage my payroll. I have to decide what marketing that I am going to agree to support and implement it with my team and build systems that remove myself to the day-to-day and decide when am I going to reinvest back in my business? When am I going to try to expand? When am I going to diversify, buy index funds, buy real estate, do cost segs? Like everything that any other entrepreneur does, you do as a franchise owner, but you have rules that you have to play by, right? And those rules ultimately is what helps create this unfair advantage because some people get into this thing and they don't want to play by those rules, which creates problems, which creates opportunities. And so that's the first big reason. They think it's not a real business, and there are people who I think would absolutely crush it if they really realize what it's like. And that could be you, to be totally honest, depending on what you think about it. They think that the fees just kill your margins. I mean, I pay we write a check for $5 million every year to Midas. And people ask me, like, you already know how to run it. Why wouldn't you just have your own Beer's Tire and Auto, right? I mean, there's multiple reasons, but you have a brand, you have a playbook. You should feel that it's like an investment because if you do, the math works really, really well when you view it as an investment that you're making and it's like a ticket to the show, and that you wouldn't be like, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for that. And so you have to believe that. If you can't get over that, and like I talk to franchisees who will like complain about the royalties, that complain about what they're getting in return, and they put so much energy into thinking about like things they can't control. It's like, listen, you signed the agreement. It is what it is. You might as well make the best of it. But alas. So then you're locked in. All right. This is true. You are contractually bound. When you buy a franchise, you are contractually locked in to whatever it is, a 5-year, 10-year, or 20-year agreement. There's rules about transferring. There's rules on what you can and can't do. Part of this is a good thing because think about this. Like if I'm a franchise, I own Midas shops. If you drive by a Midas shop in your neighborhood that is a complete, rundown, that is ripping people off and looks like shit, your perception of the brand is tarnished. And if you come up to Philadelphia to see one of my stores, you're not going to think the same. And so you want, as a franchise, as especially a high-performing owner, you want there to be high standards. You want them to take action. You want them to get the people who shouldn't be in it out of it. That is good for you because guess what? It's that when the brand wants to get these guys out, who are they going to go to? They're going to go to the people who operate at the level that is required to succeed. And so that is 100% true. And it's a disadvantage if you're not great. It's a very big advantage if you know what you're doing. And it's boring. Nobody gets rich from franchising. You buy yourselves a job. I mean, at the end of the day, there's that spectrum, right? So there's this big spectrum where there are plenty of people who get into it and they buy themselves a job. They cannot escape. Even in Midas, 60%, I think it is, of the franchise owners. So there's about, I forget how many. I think it's like 400, 500. I'm not exactly sure. But it's 60% own like 1 or 2 stores. And so 2/3 of the system, by and large, are one or two shop owners. And in their worlds, most of them, yeah, they're highly involved in the day-to-day. It's hard to take a vacation. They could be running the store. And yeah, they've like bought themselves a job. And then there's like a group of us who've got 10, 15, 20, 30, 80, 100. Same brand, same playbooks, right? But like we have figured out how to take that same thing and turn it into a business. And so it's not necessarily like the brand. A lot of it is how you operate, which once again, where can you find this unfair advantage? It's that you are really good at operating it and others aren't, right? And so this is the risk reward that nobody really understands. And you sign these agreements. You sign a 10-year agreement. Listen, I've signed some of these agreements. I've been in some other brands too, not just Midas, that two other ones that I failed at. And you sign this franchise agreement. You're committed to it. You can't just walk away, right? There's clauses in there that penalize you. That says if you sign a 10-year agreement and after 3 years you're like, hey, I'm done with this thing. I'm not making any money. It's not fun anymore. I want to move. Whatever. You can't just walk away. And there's clauses, they're called liquidated damages, that state if you just leave, essentially, that they can sue you for the royalties that are expected for the life of the contract. So if it was a 10-year agreement, you're 3 years in, they would say there's 7 years left. Maybe you're paying them $50,000 a year or in royalties, let's say, 7 times 50,000, what's that? $350,000. They would go to you and say, if you shut it down, we'll sue you for that. Now, are they actually going to go through with it? Can you negotiate it down? Are there arbitrators? Like, yes. But like, nobody wants to go down that path. They don't want to either, because then they have to disclose it in their franchise agreements. But what it does is it creates these contractual obligations to operate the business. And the reward, right? The reward for people that are good is that when they want out, when a franchisee wants out, the easiest person to sell it to is another franchise owner, is somebody else who's already in the game. They're already approved by the franchisor. They already know what to do. They might be obviously a better operator too. And so just think about that, right? So like you've got this group of people who get in this thing. They think it's going to be easy. They think it's going to be a passive investment. You know how many people message me and say, Brian, I have X amount of dollars I want to invest. I'm looking for something passive to create some income. The truth is, like, it's hard. It's hard because you're operating a business. You're not making an investment. You're not buying some rental property or apartment building here. You're running a business. And they think it's going to be easy. They keep their job, like whatever. And then after a few years, they realize it's really not. It's not fun anymore. But they've got the obligation of the franchise agreement. They've got the obligation of a lease. In my case, we're retail business. And when they want to get out, guess who they come to? And this is how I'm able to get some killer deals. I'm going to talk about these in a little bit. But there is like the $25K deal. I bought cheaper than that. Like, there's a guy in 8-figure franchisee, which is like my private community. Basically, we help people buy more locations, increase cash flow, run this whole playbook in detail. He's buying another franchise for $1, and it costs like $300,000 to build one of these things out. And so there's two sides to this, right? You obviously feel for the guy who's selling it for $1, who's lost probably at $300,000 in the business, right? But like, what are we going to do about that? What am I going to do about that? Like, I had no involvement. I'm running my thing. And at the end of the day, if no one's going to buy that and it's losing money, by the way, it's losing money. So you want me to take over your business that's losing money, sign this lease, personally guarantee the rest of your franchise agreement, right? Bet on myself that I'm going to succeed to do that. I need a deal. It has to work, right? And so you feel bad for the guy that it didn't work out for, who lost the money. But listen, like, this is business. There's winners and losers. And the advantage, the unfair advantage that you could have, that I have, that many, many people that I work with have, is they get into that brand and they excel. They are the ones who are able to buy these. And honestly, that guy selling it for $1 at that table is relieved. He is relieved because he got it off his shoulder. He doesn't have to think about it anymore. He can go back to what he did before, where it's a lot easier life, that he didn't have employees, he didn't have all this stress, and he didn't even care about the money. Like, it sucks, but he's going to be okay. And so if I was starting all over again and I didn't have the Midas, I would find another opportunity that's like that. I would find one where there is this polar opposite, where there are franchise owners who are in it, who excel, which proves that it can be done, right? If nobody's making money, not a good brand, right? There's 3,000 franchises. A lot of them are crap. Most of them are crap. But there's some that people just crush it. And then there's others on the opposite side where they're struggling. And that tells you very simply that a lot of the success then also comes down to the way that they operate it. And then if I could figure out what those best guys are doing and I could repeat that process, because if it's nothing special, then that's what creates the roll-up opportunities. And so that's what I would look for. And I'm going to talk about in a minute here how to find the brand, what I would look for and all that stuff. So that'll be in a minute. And the funny part about this is that franchisors, they play favorites. And that if you're a top performer, if you are somebody who they think like this guy's got it, they will feed you deals. They will come to you to say, hey, we got a guy, we want to get this guy out. He wants out. This is how much he wants. I mean, I've literally had Midas bring us a deal that was like, this guy wants out. He wants $150,000. This is what his revenue, this is what his team looks like, et cetera. And we were good with the numbers. That was it. There was no negotiation. It was all ready to roll. I have a story here in a minute. I'll tell you that's even bigger than that. But like, franchisors want their best guys to succeed. They want consolidation. At least the brands that I would get into want consolidation, because we talk about that spectrum. The Chick-fil-A's of the world want single unit operators. UPS store wants 1-2 store operators. Very, very hard to grow in those systems. But there's plenty of others that want big franchisees. They want big operators. And that is the goal here. So if you want to get rich in 26, we have to find that brand and we have to find a niche, and then you have to go out and you have to dominate it. And then 26 specifically, there's a lot of tired owners. I think a lot of COVID stress, post-it. It's like you went through COVID and like that was terrible. Like you got PPP money, you were happy with that, but like it was stressful. Now you've got continuing labor market. Like nobody wants to work. It's really hard to find good people. It's hard to keep good people. And by the way, we're in the people business. None of these are in whatever business you think they are. Like I'm in the people business that happens to fix cars. I have friends that are in the people business that happen to take care of old people or make pizzas. You're in the people business. And so the labor market being difficult to hire people is a big reason that people want to get out. So your unfair advantage may be that you are really good at spotting talented people, getting them on board, getting them to do the things you want them to do. That is one of my skills. Like, there's a lot of things I'm not good at, but I am pretty good at getting somebody on the phone. And then within the first few seconds, I could tell you, should we hire this guy or not? I'm looking at his energy. Is this guy fired up to talk to me? Does he really want this job? Does he have goals? Does he dream big? Does he want to push himself? Is he friendly? Is he excited? Do I get that vibe that, yeah, I would want this guy on the phone talking to customers, representing my brand and my business? And so that could be a skill that some people just don't have. It's a lot harder than it used to be. And there's fear. There's a lot of fear with just everything that's going on in the world. And so the goal is to be the buyer that everyone wants to sell to. And if you can get that, you will have unlimited opportunities in this thing. And so here's the playbook. Number one, find a brand that you can, oh shit, hold on. You want to find a brand that you can dominate with. Now, this is the hardest part because everyone asks me, well, what's the best brand? What should I buy? And the truth is, there's no magic bullet. And a lot of it is what makes you a great owner. I talked about earlier here that a franchise owner is an entrepreneur, is a business owner. And that as an entrepreneur, we all have different skills. Some of us are good at hiring. Some of us are good at sales. Some of us are good at operations. If you're really good at sales, like high ticket sales, like you can build and drive a sales force, then like you should get into a business that's heavily sales driven, that you could drive memberships, that you could drive selling $10,000 artificial turf or fences or like anything like home services or high ticket if you're really good at sales. If you suck at sales, probably shouldn't get into that type of business. You probably should get into something that's operations driven if that's what you're good at. And so you really got to think about like what makes you special and what are you going to drive at and find something that's in that. You want to look for areas that have some sort of distress to them. Now, once again, we're looking where other people aren't looking. When I posted that, I had that tweet the other day. I posted about the 75-year-old lady, and there was a bunch of comments on there from what appear to be other shop owners that said, how do you deal with the finding mechanics and retaining mechanics? It's so hard to find mechanics and retain mechanics, right? Like the initial pain is like, why would you get into that business? It is extremely hard to hire people, which is exactly why I excel in it. That's exactly why we have 35 stores, is because it's really hard to hire great mechanics and keep them because less and less people are going to trade school, right? Less and less people want to fix cars these days. And yes, it is harder to find them. And so if the unfair advantage becomes I am able to find and retain these guys and treat them really well and pay them very well and create a clean, modern environment that they want to work in, then yeah, like I'm able to buy all these stores from these other people who aren't doing that. Right? And to them, if they lose their number one mechanic, they lose maybe their number two guy, and they have a bunch of like entry-level people, it's gonna be really hard to make money in this business, right? That's a distressed, we operate in a distressed business from that perspective, right? So like, you wanna look for that. You also wanna look at distress of could it be a brand that's on decline? Even Midas, like Midas is doing really well now. It's the best that it's ever been, but like, when I was buying, like even a number of years ago when I was buying all these things, that necessarily wasn't the case. And the most recent team has done an amazing job getting it back to that standard. You know what they did to get us back to that standard was they had a program that said, we are going to eliminate basically the detractors, the people who bring this brand down, the one where you drive by that has a terrible reputation because they rip people off, they accept cash, their store looks like shit. There was literally a store that had dirt floors like in the shop, like no joke, in like Alabama or somewhere. And it's because previously they let too many people get away with too many things. And in a franchise brand, that destroys it, right? When you have too much of that. And so they said, we're not going to tolerate that anymore. We are going to get these people are either going to invest in their business and get it to the standard, or they're going to get out. And a lot of those people choose to get out. And guess who bought them, right? Guys like me who could look at a distressed situation, who could take over a store that has a terrible reputation, that is losing money, that needs $150,000 of renovations just to get it up to the standard. And I can make that bet on myself because I know that we are going to have success with it. And so you have to look for distress. If you are looking for like, I'm going to find this perfect brand that everybody loves and has this like, there's no tarnish, that it's very easy to hire, it's very easy to make money. Well, guess what? Like none of them are going to be for sale because all the best franchisees like me are going to be buying them if I was in that system. It's going to be really hard for you as an outsider to break in when it's that good on the inside. And so you have to find distress. And it's just different types that you're looking for. You don't need experience. A lot of people say like, oh, follow your passion and all this stuff. I don't give a shit about cars. I drive a car, a 2019 car that's paid off. And like, I could care less about cars. What I'm passionate about is making money, is building teams, is building a business that I'm proud of. I'm passionate about that stuff. But like, I just as well could be in any other business and I would be the same person. We'd be doing the same things, just to a different industry. So don't follow your passion. And finally, a lot of people diss fast food, right? They say, I don't want to get in anything but fast food. And honestly, I thought that for a while. I passed up on what I thought probably would have been a good opportunity if I pursued it. This guy's named Chris, lives in Philly. He's 31 years old. He just did this deal with Papa John's 2 months ago. Basically, Papa John's had their largest franchisee who is down in Baltimore, Maryland, and Papa John's basically did a joint venture with him where he now controls 85 stores. So a single deal, he got 85 locations that the franchisor helped facilitate I'm sure they've helped line up financing to make this all happen. I'm sure he's got some partners. He now has 150 locations. He's one of the largest franchisees in the country. You know, his goal is to get to 250 by 2030. He's committed to 52 more locations. Think about this for a second, right? Guy's 31 years old. I'm 38, by the way. 31 years old, and he's clearly figured out that he has an unfair advantage in operating Papa John's restaurants, right? That he has been able to get into this thing and like be the guy to operate them very well, to prove that he could take over distressed locations and make them better. He is a guy that has really good relationships with the franchisor if they basically help facilitate it. Because there's some other really big operators in Papa John's. There are much bigger operators than him, right? And they easily could have blocked him and gave it to somebody else. But they didn't. They chose him because, I mean, geographically, he's not that far. So obviously, like, you have systems, you have support. Like geographic definitely is a part of it. But they also believed in him. Because he proved it that he could do it. And so the average Papa John's is like, I don't know, 1.2 million. I want to say it nets probably at least 10% if I'm ballparking it. So he runs a company that today does probably 150 million, maybe 175 million, making $10, $15 million. You still think fast food's not the way to go? And I bet he hasn't made a pizza in many years. And there's no magic bullet. So like, look at this map here. This was Midas ownership in 2016. Every one of those different colors represents different owners. And I own all those stores today. And if someone tried to get into Midas back then, there's lots of opportunity because there's lots of different fragmented ownership. You could go, as I did, to start with these stores. And then you buy this store, you start with here, and then you buy this store, and then you buy that store, and you open up this one, and you buy this one, and then you get a group, and then you buy these two. And then like when it's highly fragmented business that you can get in, highly fragmented market, lots and lots of different owners, you can get in there and you can pick them off one by one by one, and you learn the system and you build momentum. That is what I would do if I was starting again. I would find a brand that's distressed, that's highly fragmented in the market that you want to operate in. Because the challenge is, like, I own all the stores today. If someone else tried to run that same play in Midas in Philly, New Jersey, like, there's no, you're competing with me. I'm not going to let you win. Like, if there's an opportunity to buy a store, I'm going to overpay for that store because I have synergies in all this. Like, I am not going to let one slip through. Like, it would have to be a absolutely ridiculous deal for me to not do it. Because I have that unfair advantage of I can pay more because I've got systems. I also have relationships with these guys, so they know me, and they know I'm going to get a deal done. They know how I treat their employees, that we give everyone jobs, we give everyone a chance, and I'm going to have that unfair advantage. What you need to do if you want to run this playbook is you need to find a brand and a system that you have that unfair advantage, that you are the guy or gal who everyone else goes to because you get the deals done. And so don't look for the magic bullet because it's not going to happen. What you want to do is look in your market. You want to see, in my market, what does ownership look like? And that even Midas, like, maybe you missed the boat on Midas Philly. Sorry, guys. Not going to happen. But other cities could work. Maybe Dallas works. Chicago could work. There's other cities around the country that are highly fragmented in Midas. But maybe auto's not your thing. Meineke could work. Meineke, if anybody wanted to do auto, I would look at Meineke. I see news stories every day about these guys buying 15, 25, like working the consolidation. They were kind of like Midas was, I would say, 10 years ago. Lots of single unit operators could be a roll-up opportunity there. But it's not just that. Like, I have friends in all these industries. Senior care. I'm a partner in a senior care franchise here in Philly, and he is absolutely crushing it. I know guys in fencing who are building these massive fencing franchises, and some of them started from zero too. Some of these guys started and grew the business, and then they started acquisitions later too. Painting. I have a friend who's buying multiple cities in a painting franchise, building systems. His VA runs a lot of it. He's getting some great deals. Roofing, youth enrichment, multiple guys in the youth enrichment space that can make this happen. Mosquito control, garage doors. There are some massive franchisees in garage doors. I think it's Precision Garage. These guys own multiple cities, entire markets, backed by now private equity companies who are going and basically giving the money to help the franchisees do roll-ups in garage door repair and replacement. And so the opportunity that exists, it's every industry. It is not just one thing. It is not just, it has to be automotive. It has to be garage doors. It's every industry because the theme is the same, right? These principles that I'm talking about are universal in that these are all things that people need every day, right? People eat pizza. People get their garage doors fixed. They paint their house. They fix their roof. Their kids go to camps. They get their cars fixed. Like that's the thing about franchising, right? Like we're in industries where people are already buying this stuff every single day, and we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're not trying to train them on some new thing that like we have to teach them what it means or what it does. Like, and sometimes like, and I don't want to offend anybody here, but like I gotta say it. Like my goal is to be the tallest midget. Okay, it's like in some cases the goal is just to be a little bit better than everyone else. And you can win that way. Even in automotive, like we call our competitors, they're terrible on the phones. So for me to win, I just have to not be terrible on the phones and I can win customers. Like it's as silly as that. But like that opportunity, because the bar is so low, exists in all these different industries. And the key is, this is the hardest part though, is you finding one that you can excel in. And once you're in, so let's say we find something, and let's say it's garage doors, whatever. Maybe you see it, you see these guys crushing it, backed by PE, you find a market, it's really fragmented, you get into it. Your goal should be to go as deep as you can into that brand. You want to learn the playbook. You want to build the franchisor's trust. You want to learn who's struggling. You want to learn who's thriving. You go and visit them, right? Because when you're in a franchise system, you're like buddies now, and that people open up the Komodo when it's not your competitor, at least like in a neighborly way, and literally tell you anything you want, like sales, margins, net profit, how much money they made last month, what was the biggest mistake they made, how are they, everything, anything you would want to know. Once you're in a system, you can build these relationships, and that's what I love about it too. Is like, we talk about this unfair advantage. Like you now join this group of people and it's like a mastermind, right? Like shared knowledge to like achieve something bigger. But it really is that if you take advantage of it. And the problem that a lot of franchisees have is they just like live in their own bubble. They just expect the franchisor is going to give them anything. They have all these expectations that like, it's going to be easy. And I just like hit the machine thing. But then you got guys like and gals like me who are like, I go to every franchise convention. I know all the top operators. I fly to go meet them. I go out of my way to learn from everyone in the system to find out what I could do better. And guess what? I share just as much. I'll share anything anybody wants with me. And I instill that in my team. Like we have an amazing leadership team now that runs all the operations. They run all the day-to-day. I have zero involvement, by the way, in any of this business now, because I built a team. And guess what? They're the ones who are building the relationships with the other franchise owners. They are the ones who are going to these conventions, going to these regional meetings. They are the ones who are implementing these systems and sharing what we're doing. And so that creates this unfair advantage when now it's not just me anymore, but you have a team and everyone's aligned on the same thing and you're a sponge about it. And so, and the deeper that you go in the brand, the easier it is to build that type of team that I have. Because as the business gets bigger and bigger, right, I generate more sales, which creates more payroll dollars, which I can invest into employing better people that take stuff off my plate. And that's ultimately the only way you can grow a big business, is that you remove yourself from like any bottleneck and you stop being the hero and you start being the architect who builds systems and people and teams. And when I think through it, right, of like what I would do, mistakes I've made, what have I seen other people do really well, is that so many people diversify to escape the hard work, in that they start with a single brand. Maybe they're in blinds or flooring or something. And then they're like, oh, well, I'm going to get into cabinets, or I'm going to get into closets, because everyone who has a floor has a closet, and everyone who has a closet needs a handyman, and everyone who needs a handyman needs this. And then all of a sudden now they've got, 3 different lines of business. But the challenge is, like, they are still the single point of failure for all those. And you can't build a bench, you can't build a team, because everything still goes back up to you, versus like if you pick one thing and you get really, really good at it, you just do it over and over again to the point that you get bored. You can then build systems around this. You can build systems that says, this is how we hire people. This is how we onboard people. This is how we take care of them. This is how we pay them. These are the pay bands that we approve. This is, how we operate customers. Like, I have built we have internal playbooks of how we operate our business. Playbooks that our district managers teach to our new managers, and that our assistant managers know. So when we promote somebody, they already know what to do because it's systematized. And that is only possible because you just go over and over and over and over again to the point that it's boring. And that's the whole freaking point, is it's supposed to be boring. Like, I don't want any new problems to come up in my business. And it rarely happens. It is very rare that we have a problem that hasn't happened already and that we don't know exactly what to do. And many people just aren't capable of this because they get bored. Entrepreneurs, it's our nature to chase shiny objects, to chase the next big thing, to chase something that we think is going to challenge us, that's going to be fun, that's going to be exciting. And like, all the money I've lost has been because I tried to do something else that at the time seemed really like a really good idea. And I was really smart and like, I'm going to diversify and split all these things and blah, blah, blah. And guess what? Like, not only did I not make money doing that, I lost money. I lost a lot of money. But it distracted me from my core business, which was buying more shops. And I think about all the money I lost to say, like, what if I just bought more stores? What if I overpaid to buy more stores that were cash flow machines? Because because I already know what I'm doing. And this is like the hardest part for a lot of entrepreneurs. And it's one that I like harp on the most. And it's because the more that you diversify, you dilute your focus, and you're never going to create that unfair advantage. You're never going to be the best. You're never going to hit 8 figures of revenue or 8 figures of profit if you are constantly jumping from thing to thing to thing to thing. And you're never going to build a team because you're not going to have the payroll to afford the type of guys that can truly build a business with you. And so your goal is to be the best operator in the country. The goal is that other people call you when they want to get out, and they have to get out because they have this contractual obligation and they're sick of it, and no outsider wants to buy it, but you know how to buy it. You have systems and teams in place to execute it. And the thing is that first location that you have doesn't need to be even a home run. Like, it's your ticket to the game. And we're not looking to get rich on the first one. We're looking to get our foot in the door, and then we can start running this play. Because money comes to those who are willing to wait and compound their knowledge and their skills and their teams. And so let's say I got into that garage door repair business, and let's say that I got a great deal on a single market, or in my area, but I knew there were a bunch of other franchisees that I could buy it from. I knew it was like a diversified ownership, you could say, that could make this happen. I would focus then entirely on building a cash flow machine. I would know my numbers cold. I'd keep it really simple as I can. Revenue, cost of goods, labor. Like, those are the 3 things that matter. And customer, number of tickets too, maybe 4 things. I'd have weekly scorecards. I'd cut the fat. I'd get rid of, we're a performance-based company. I'd get rid of everyone who's not performing and up to the standards that you expect. I'd raise prices because chances are anybody who's selling you their business hasn't raised prices in like 2 years because they're afraid of losing stuff. And, we deserve it. I'd build a people system to attract talent. I'd make sure all my compensation plans are extremely aligned with rewarding performance. On day 1, I would probably make some of those changes. I'd ease into it a little bit, but probably very quickly make these changes because this is a big miss, and it's something again that I share in the Cash Flow Club like bits and pieces of it. It's a big talking point in 8-figure franchisee in our growth program, is that if you don't have great compensation plans, like you are playing business on hard mode. Versus if you can design really good compensation plans, bonus plans for your people, then, it's not easy mode, but it's a whole lot easier than if you don't. Like I talk to owners all the time. They pay everybody hourly. So guess what? Everybody just like shows up, they punch a clock, they leave. And then the people who are the top performers in their company, then like they look at him like, wait, I'm making the same amount of money. This guy who's just slacking off the whole time. And then guess what? He leaves. Like your best people leave when you don't have a clear division of performance-based pay in a performance-based organization. And so you want compensation plans that are simple, that anybody can understand with a napkin and a piece of pen and like, their phone calculator. You want them really simple. I've seen guys put these like whole spreadsheets with like rubrics and all this shit. Nobody knows how to read that. Don't do that. That like reward performance. The more I perform, the more money I make. Simple as that. And it aligns with the company. Big one. A lot of times, like I want to drive gross profit. I don't care about sales. I care about gross profit in the stores because our people have a lot of flexibility in how they price things, what things cost, like what the margins are. They control gross profit. So I want to pay them on that. If you pay on sales, and they have a lot of flexibility, then you have to police that their margins are good. And I don't want to do that. You have to develop leaders. So like I would immediately work on a leadership development program. I would be every single person that I hire from day one. I would run them through the lens of, could this guy be a leader in my company? And if not, then like, I'm not that interested, to be honest. And this has happened. Like I have multiple guys that I have a guy who we hired as a maintenance guy for $12 an hour off Craigslist to help us move equipment between stores and sweep floors. And I want to say this was like it was a long time ago. It was probably 2016. Today, he runs one of my most profitable stores. We do like 1.7 million there in revenue. Very, very profitable store. People love him, right? He had no experience in cars. He had no experience in being a manager, but he had the core values that I'm looking for. He was a hard worker. He busted his ass when he was there. He showed up every single day early. He was really friendly and he always smiled and he always was a good mood. And he was just somebody you like to be around. And so like I could hire literally anybody off Craigslist. The pool is literally anybody to do this simple task. And if you're going to do that, find the person who has the skills that could be developed, that could be somebody who could be something someday for your group. Same thing. I have a guy that was a $14 an hour mechanic for us, who's now a managing partner in one of our stores, which means he gets like a percentage of the store's profit. And it was the same thing. He proved that he was a leader, and he earned his way up. And that is something that I would be looking for from day one as I'm going through this. As I'm trying to build one, I would have an even stronger filter for leadership capabilities and high standards. And if they don't meet my standards, I'm not going to tolerate it. That is something, honestly, I learned from these special ops guys who run the company now, is that our standard is so much higher than honestly when I ran it. These guys hold everyone to a much higher bar of accountability, of expectations. And guess what? Like, we are getting better results. The higher the standards you hold people to, the better results you get. The challenge is it's painful sometimes. I mean, sometimes we let go of people that, man, it's tough. They make you a lot of money, but they don't meet the standard. And it's short-term pain for long-term gain. And global talent, man, I would be leveraging the shit out of global talent. Anything that doesn't need to be physically touched is a remote job. I'm going to hire from the Philippines. I'm going to hire from South America and South Africa. Those are the three big continents that we work for. Even our team today, we have 200 employees. We do $50 million in revenue. Our back office that runs everything, essentially, make sure people get paid, bills get paid, all that stuff. We have 3 people in the U.S. 3 people. We have, I want to say it's 15 people more. I don't know. It's not my department, but to do everything else. HR onboarding. Our controller is in the Philippines. All accounts payable, accounts receivable, admin stuff, like you name it. Our team is remote and it's scalable. They work really well together. They have very high attention to detail. And it's significantly cheaper. I mean, our average wage is probably $1,500 a month for like a full-time, very high quality, knowledgeable person. So I would leverage that. All right, so now we build this cash flow machine. We have this back office that's scalable and profitable and like grows as we do. I would then get very, very good. Well, I'm already good at it, but I would push seller financing to excel our growth. And a lot of people don't know this, but in franchising, seller financing is going to be your biggest weapon. It is going to be your biggest unfair advantage of getting these deals done, because we talk about franchisees want to sell to franchisees. They want to get deals done. Sometimes when I'm looking at these things, people have certain numbers they can't go below. Maybe they've got debt they got to pay off. Maybe they've, whatever. It's a number in their head. They won't sell it for anything less, but I think it's a really good opportunity for us. I'm going to use seller financing to get the deal done because I'm able to structure it in a way that's a win-win, that allows us to have little money into the deal, has very flexible payments, and helps them get out of the situation. And so this is very hard, by the way, as your first deal. So if you're saying, hey, I want to go out of the gates to try to get one of these seller financing deals I'm about to talk about, it's going to be very difficult because you have to have trust. They have to trust you. And if they don't know you, it's hard to build that. Like, you're going to have to spend a lot of time building that trust. Not to say it's not possible, but is way easier once you're on the inside because everybody knows each other. Everyone sees me at the events, right? We've been to multiple regional meetings together. Like, we know each other. And so for me, the unfair advantage is 27 of the 35 stores I own today have been acquired using seller financing. I only have one deal that required a bank loan for an acquisition. And we've got lines of credit and we've got other things we use, but like many are seller financing. And that goes back to, we're in a system that has some distress to it. It has ones where maybe they can't get the price that they want, that there's not a bunch of outsiders bidding on these things that's bidding the price up. You get deals because there's some hair on it, and you have to accept that. But like, I'm willing to accept it every single day because I'm good at it, right? And that's the unfair advantage. So as I start to look for what would I start in 26 again, it would be find these opportunities where I can repeat this just in a different brand. There's deals I've done. I've done a deal. I bought a store, $50,000 down. That was the down payment. It was making about $100,000 a year, like profit. So if nothing changed, I think I would have made like $60K after the debt payments because there was about $3K a month. We got that store. The next 12 months made $400,000. I got an 800% return on my money in that store. Almost every deal I've done has been 100% or more money back in the first year on these seller finance deals, because we're getting in with usually it's 50 to 75K. I don't know. It's just I put 50K down on a $2 million deal. I put 50K down on a $500K deal. This was 50K down on a $350. It was like a number that seemed to work for me. I don't know, but 50K down, and then we get into these things, and immediately we have our playbook in how we make the stores look and how we price things and how we hire people and like all the things. And you think, well, you're a franchise. Shouldn't they all be the same? But they're not, because we're owners. We're independent owners that happen to operate a business, and that if we are better operators than somebody else, then we create this, right? We create value. We create value where others sometimes struggle. And that is a huge advantage. And we talk about like that whole compounding wealth component. And I said, the whole point is, back in the beginning, we start this thing, we make the money, and then we keep taking the money that we're making and using it to buy more and more and more and more and more. And when I look at my deal, I've only put $65,000 into this business total, like 65K. I went 50-50 with my brother. We needed 130K down to buy the first two. So it was 65K for me, 65K for him. That was the cash that we seeded this business with. That today, we're over 50 million in revenue. We've strong 7 figures of cash flow. And that was all funded with that. And it's because, and we've never had to put another dime in this business since. And it's because we continue to put the money back in and in and in and in and in. When everyone else is running away and doesn't want to get into it, we're putting the chips back into the table. And when I make $400,000 in that year, guess what I did with it? Do you think I went out and bought a new car? No, I still have the same car. Do you think I went out and bought a fancier house or a boat or watch or put it into crypto, all this other shit? No, I saved the money And I use $200,000 of it to go and buy 7 more stores, and then 3 more stores, and then 2 more stores, and then 1 more store, and then 5 more stores, and then 6 more stores. And the money just kept going back into the business and over and over and over and over again. And it's that pushing the money back into the table. It's compounding what you have because you're really good at it. And why would I take my money and stick it in the stock market and earn 15 or 20% when I can almost guaranteed to get 100% return? And then that store creates an opportunity for more people to rise within it. And then the more stores I have, the more career path I can create, the higher quality of talent that I can attract who wants a career path to grow. I can leverage better margins with my vendors and rebates. And I become now the guy that other people want to sell to because I already have the bigger company, right? And that this is why like rich people get richer is because they get really good and they create these unfair advantages. And then that becomes a magnet for everything else. And so, and seller financing is the weapon that I use. And yes, could I go to a bank and get some of these done? Yeah, maybe. And maybe could I get some better deals from a bank? Maybe. But like some of these done, I've done in literally 30 days, we can take it over. I don't ask for tax returns. Sometimes these are losing money and they're unbankable and I'd have to pay cash, and I don't want to pay cash, but I could do a seller finance deal. And you think, well, why would they want it? Why would a seller say yes to this? Tax benefits, they basically, whatever capital gains, they get to pay it over the life of the loan. So, that deal earlier, I'm paying that lady, $4K a month in total. She gets to defer her capital gains over 12 years because it's a 12-year note. So spread it out. Higher price than they might get, faster than the banks, and they trust me. And it's funny. Sometimes like I'm the retirement plan for 7 or 8 people, and they trust me more than taking that money and putting it into the stock market or real estate or anything else. They like the annuity. They like the reliability. And at the end of the day, they've got all the same protections a bank would. They have personal guarantees. They've got collateral from me. If the business failed, they would get to keep all the money I ever paid them, and they would get the business back. Now, it'd probably be in shambles, not something a 75-year-old lady wants to do. So obviously she has to trust me, but they have a lot of protection on that. This is exactly what I do inside of 8-Figure Franchisee, by the way. Like, it's this growth program we have. We help franchisees increase cash flow, acquire more locations, structuring these deals. Like I've helped multiple guys how to structure these deals so that in a very specific way that gets them done. And it's not complicated, but there's a certain way that is proven that I've done it, that multiple other people have done it to be able to acquire these things. And that's something, I don't know, we help people with a lot. And so anybody owns a franchise and wants my help structuring these things, that's the place to do it. And then step 5 here, we got to remove ourselves. And that every owner gets stuck because they're the hero. And the challenge is that they start as, there's these 3 phases. And you start as, I do it. I'm the one that does everything. I'm the one who has to learn the business, know what it takes to be successful. I have to sell the jobs and estimate and know marketing and all this. It's your business. Like you literally have to know a lot of these things in the beginning. And I would go through that again. If I was starting from zero, I would find a business and I would be in it every single day. I would work 6 days, 7 days a week. I would know every single part about the business, because if I don't, people could take advantage of you. Employees that you have say, Brian, this isn't possible. Nobody wants to buy. Nobody does this, X, Y, and Z. And you can call bullshit because you just did it. When they tell you follow-ups don't work and you're like, fine, let's pick up the phone right now. Let's call some customers, right? When they tell you that nobody wants to work anymore, nobody wants to work for the rates and you're too cheap and we need to pay double and blah, 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 blah. And when you've done it, you know that is possible and you don't tolerate it, because at the end of the day, people are going to take the least path of resistance and they're going to push back on things. And the stronger that you are as knowledgeable in the business, the better. Earlier, I talked about how I don't know how to fix cars. I really don't. Never fixed a car in my life, but we own 35 automotive repair shops. That doesn't mean that I can't hire a mechanic. I know, I've been around, I spent thousands of hours in the shops. I know if they're bullshitting me or not. I know what the great ones look like. I know how to talk to a customer about it. I know how to handle any objection a customer may have. I know when I'm over my skis and need to bring in the most technical guy who could communicate that to him, right? But I had to learn all that stuff. If I didn't, if I was completely oblivious to it, no way would I be where I'm at today without that. So you have to go through this phase. It is what makes you successful. And then you move into the we do it phase. This is where you hire people. You find people who are sponges. So I would hire those guys for $14 an hour. It's more now probably, and I would get them to learn everything that I know. And I would be teaching them these principles, and I would be showing them, this is how I do a sales call. This is how we follow up. This is how we are going to do these things together. And my expectation is that they are a sponge and that they are soaking up all that information, and then they are doing it, that they are executing it, and that I am going to value here that progress is more important than perfection. And you should write that down. I tell myself this every day. Progress is more important than perfection. And where most owners get stuck and they stay small, and ultimately they end up selling to me or you, if you're on this playbook, is they want everything to be perfect. They want everything to be right. And when that employee doesn't handle that sales call the way it should be done, they rip the phone out of their hand and they take over and they sell it. And now they're the hero. They saved the day. They did it all. But do you think that employee learned? Do you think they now have a better idea of what they need to do to sell it next time? No, because most people learn by doing, not by listening. And so they just have so much trouble letting go. And then the business can't thrive. It can't grow beyond them. And that's where they get stuck at 1 or 2 locations, and they bought themselves a job. But their stores are perfect, right? Their stores are absolutely perfect. Everything is to a T. And so if that's the type of business you want to run, great, you can do that. There's plenty of opportunities. But if it's me and I'm starting from over again, I'm going to continue to value perfection, progress over perfection. And then once you can elevate to that, you move into this phase called they do it. This is where the team operates without you. They are the ones who can take a customer, estimate, sell the job, make sure everything gets done right. Customer's happy, 5-star review, boom, we collected, sale done, referral made, 5-star review, all of it, end to end, and you have zero involvement. Because once you can do that at a store, that the team can run the store without me, and my phone doesn't blow up. Then you can have 2 stores, because pretty much the same. Then you can have 3 stores, 4 stores, 5 stores. Once you have 5 stores, you now become the district manager, the regional man, the GM, whatever you want to call it. But you are now the person who is overseeing multiple locations. You're the one who's hiring and training leadership teams and making sure the processes are done right and all these things. And then you repeat the process. And this goes at every level. It goes on repeat, because now you are the district manager. I do it. I am the district manager who oversees all these stores. Then I find the best person in my organization who I believe could be just as good or 80% as good as me being the district manager. And then we do it together. I'm going to show you what it takes to be a district manager. And by the way, your best salesperson is not necessarily your best district manager. 2 different skills. DM, highly organizational people, very good with details, numbers, accountability. Salespeople, generally the opposite of that. And so anyway, you want to be careful with that. Big mistake a lot of people make. And then guess what? We do it together until the point that I feel, hey, you are now hiring people. You are now taking care of this. You don't need much of my help. Then we move to they do it. Now it's the district manager is able to operate this whole thing without my direct input on a daily basis. And so now I have 5 stores. I have 1 district manager who oversees them all. I'm building this little pyramid here. And then guess what? Once you have 1 unit that operates without your direct involvement, you have a district manager and you have this whole team and all this stuff, there is no difference going from 1 district to 2 districts to 3, 4, 5 districts. And then it repeats. Now you're like the regional manager, the COO, whatever you want to call yourself. But your role is you're overseeing multiple districts, okay? Multiple districts of people, and you have 5 people that report to you, and those 5 people are then responsible for 5 stores each. The pyramid is getting built. And it's the same process over again. So I did it for many years. I hired a COO to take over my role. We did it together until the point that he fired me because he said, Brian, I'm way better at this than you. And I said, yes, I agree. And then he did it, right? Now they is doing it. And so every single business owner goes through these phases. And where people fall and where people get messed up and the mistake that I would not make if I was starting again, is they try to jump phases. They try to say, well, I'm going to start I'm going to hire everyone from day one. That they do it sounds the best. So like, I'm just going to like throw a bunch of money at this thing and hire a bunch of people, and like, it's their job, it's their responsibility. And I'm going to have very high expectations for them to do all this stuff. And I don't know. I haven't figured out how to do it. I have a lot of friends. They haven't done it. Maybe you can do it. If you do, let me know, because I would love to learn it. But you essentially have to go through these phases. You have to go. And this goes back to why most people don't do this, is they're not willing to do the work. They look for the shortcut. They look for the easy road out. They want the thing that everyone else is doing and they can catch fire. They want to place that bet, right? We love online gambling now, by the way. Everybody loves it. But to build a real business that gets you real money and real freedom, to get rich, you have to do things that other people don't, that they're not willing to do, that they're not capable of doing, that they don't want to do. And you have to do it for a ridiculously long time and believe in yourself and be relentless. And so the 12-month plan, this is what I would do. Number one, I would spend the next 3 months researching. I would look to find my edge. I would talk to as many different franchisors as you can. Honestly, like, I'd connect with me and my team. Like, I've built a really cool tool to help try to find some of these opportunities. But it's kind of, it's within my group, because there's some ways you got to use it the right way. But I would find these opportunities. I would find your edge. I would look to get approved, applied. Maybe you can find a partner. Maybe you could find somebody who has like a yin yang of skill sets, where maybe you're really good at sales and somebody's good at ops. Maybe you don't have the money, but there's someone else that does, and you have the skill and the relentless drive to do anything that it takes. But you want to be able to find that edge, find that team, find the brand. Then we got to start looking for locations. Then you try to lock it in with that first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe you have to start with one, but maybe there's a 3-pack you could start with. Maybe there's a small group. You just want to be careful, though, because the risk that I see that I would be afraid to do is to take a ton of debt, a ton of money, get into a business very heavily until I know that I'm going to be successful in it. Because you don't want to be the franchisee that's selling it for $1 a couple years down the line. And so this is the hardest part. This is it. And so you have to do your research. You have to find an edge. You have to know what it takes to succeed. You have to be willing to make that bet. And then you have to be just willing to do the work. At the end of the day, the work has to get done. And you learn the roles, you operate it. By July, September, I would be, I'm in the brand, I'm meeting other franchisees. I'm really figuring out, what do the best guys do? What am I not doing? What should I be doing? I'd be building the relationships with tired owners, with the older ones. You already know who they are before you get into the business, if you've done your research right. And starting to build those relationships and letting them know when you're new, but you're the guy that you want them to sell to when they're ready, and you start building that. And then, by the end of the year, I'd be looking for that first acquisition, seller financed. So I'd spend most of the year really getting my foundation right, because if you don't build a foundation, you're never going to build a house. You're never going to build anything bigger than that. And then I'd be pouring the gasoline on the fire. I'd be looking to double down. And I'd look to double every time. So from 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 to 16, et cetera. Because every time you double, you're going to hit a wall. You're going to hit a wall around people. I don't have the right people. I don't have enough people. The people who get you here aren't the ones that are going to get you to the next level. And so those are some very tough conversations that you kind of have to have. Your back office is going to fall apart. Your team that you have that pays the bills is not going to work, because you just don't have the right systems in place. And so you have to build that. And honestly, this is a ton of what we help inside of 8-Figure Franchisee is building these systems. It's because these systems are all proven. I've done it. There's a bunch of other people who've done it. None of it's unique or special. You just have to know what to do. And having the shortcuts from a system standpoint is something that you can have. And the brands don't give it to you. The brands teach you how to operate a single unit very well. The franchisors cannot teach you how to scale a company, how to acquire more, how to get financing and people and all these other stuff. But that's what we do. That's what I do. So year 2, once I get comfortable with this thing, I'd double in size, at least 2, 3, 4 more. Really depends on how it's going. And then by the 3rd year, we'd be crushing it. Deals would be coming to us. I would be taking my track record and I would be looking to push it beyond my comfort zone. because this is what I've done. This is what I did in the past. Like even for years, what held me back was I was not comfortable with growth. And I thought that, I got this chart here. I'll show this. This is a good example. Just hold on one second for me. Many of you may have seen this, but like, this is my company sales growth. And so like my first year, 2016, linear growth, couple stores here and there, grown slow. And then I hit this point, and like, I hit this point here where I was the hero. I was the guy that did it all. I was the guy that like, everything went on me. And I was also the one that was afraid to grow. And I was the one that said, I don't know if like how much bigger I want to make this thing. I don't know if I can make it bigger. I look at other guys and say like, I don't know if I can do that. I didn't have a lot of belief in myself. I was a good operator. I mean, we were profitable and stuff, but like didn't know if I had the confidence to do it. And then I learned a few things during that time, during COVID. Number one, I learned this phrase that changed my worldview, which is why not me? Why can't I do it? When I look at the other guys who are the biggest operators in the country, the biggest franchisees, even just wealthy people, guys worth $100 million, $200 million, you think that like, oh, they got there because, they have an MBA from Wharton, or they have private equity money, or their family, or a trust, or they got lucky, or blah, 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 right? A lot of times people with like a victim mindset, they look at successful people and they think like, they have all these things that I don't, and that I will never be like that because I don't have what they have. And then that is what they believe. And then that is the world that they live. But then what happens is you can break worldviews. And a lot of times how you break your worldview of something is like you get in the room with other people who have these views, who different views than what you do. And in my case, I got in the room with people who are worth that much money. And they had the same story, which was they realized that these people who are worth this big money, who fly in private jets and like have all these things that we all desire, that they're not any more special. Most of them don't have like higher education. They didn't come from money. They didn't really get lucky. They weren't special in terms of like the things that they had that got them. But what they did have was, number one, they had ridiculous goals. Goals that would be so big that that someone could feel embarrassed by even saying it, right? Ridiculously big goals. Then number two, they had relentless belief in themselves. Like they had so much conviction that they could do it and that nothing was going to hold them back. And if they didn't know what to do, they'd figure it out, and that nobody could stop them from achieving this ridiculous goal. And then every single day they took action. Every single day, the game they play is, how do I move forward? How do I get better? How do I improve? How do I hire? How do I find this unfair advantage? And so none of those things are special though, right? None of those things are ones that like require an MBA or like for you to get lucky or do all these things. And so anyway, I learned this worldview that like, and I was like, he's right. Like I can do those things. I can have big goals. I can believe in myself. I can take action. Doesn't sound that hard, right? And so that's what I started to do, right? And that I started to push myself outside of my comfort zone to buy deals that, are losing money at the time, but I believed in myself that I could get it done, that were an hour and a half, 2 hours away from where I lived. And at the time, I was the person who like made sure it was perfect, and I'm sure as hell not driving 2 hours every day. And so I had to believe that I could hire people who were better than me. But if other people could do it, why couldn't I? I'd done it in the past. I'd hired these guys off Craigslist and got them promoted. Why couldn't I identify now a different level of talent to be able to do it? And so a lot of it is you believe in yourself, you reinvest back in the business, and you ask, why can't you do it? And the truth is there is no good reason that you can't do this, and that it's all in your head. Every fear that you've got that I don't have the money, right? Guess what? There's a lot of people out there who have money who would love to deploy it into an investment opportunity with someone who they think is a total badass, if they can prove it to them. I don't have the experience. Well, guess what? Like a lot of people don't have experience until they do, but they figure it out along the way. Or like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what direction. I don't have the education. Like we have unlimited information at our fingertips with AI. You literally can learn anything. if you have clear plan of what you want to do, where you're going, and your willingness to get there. And so that's what I would do. That's how I would, if I was starting all over again, if I was starting in 2016, knowing what I know now, I would find an unfair advantage. That unfair advantage for me would be getting into a franchise system that there's a very clear distinction between winners and losers, and that I would know that I would be a winner if I would do the things that were required. And I would be willing to do anything that it takes to get to that point. I would get in, I would operate, I'd work my ass off, and I'd build a machine that could generate cash flow on a consistent basis, that we could hire talented people and develop our own and find ones that want to thrive in an organization. Because different types of people thrive in different types of organization. You find what your profile is, and there's a systematic way to do this, by the way, that's like data-driven. And then you continue to hire those people and you keep them. Then you expand the business. You get the one thing working, and then we copy and paste and copy and paste and copy and paste. And then every time we hit a wall of what we don't know how to do, we surround ourselves with people who've been there and know what to do. Like me, right? I would find people like me who've already know what to do. And sometimes it's like literally you just have to do one thing. Like there's sometimes one single thing that you have to do that is an unlock that someone else sees that you don't, because you've never been in that situation. But guess what? There's other people who have, and they can help you. And you continue to push yourselves. You continue to buy down, double down with seller financing. And then I'd systematically remove myself out of the daily grind once I built a team and a profitable business that could run without me. And then I would just continue to do it all over again. So that's the play. Appreciate you guys here live. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. Dylan says he wants the K-Cups back. Well, Dylan, I'm trying to save some money here. Got to buy more shops. I saved $76,000 by throwing out K-Cups, getting K-Cups out of all of our stores. And then we use that money. Listen, I could buy 3 shops for $76,000. It could make me a lot more money than K-Cups. But anyhow, cool, guys. If there's anything I can do to help, I'm trying to do more lives here on Wednesdays. Not next week because I'm going to be in Cancun, but the week after that and probably the week after that. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.